A broke nurse helped a beggar on the street, unaware he's a billionaire in disguise. Cold wind bit at Kate's face as she stepped out of the hospital's back entrance, her scrubs damp with sweat from a grueling 12-hour shift. The sky was a sheet of dark gray, the streetlights flickering weakly against the incoming storm. She tightened her coat around her fingers stiff from exhaustion as she pulled out her phone. A deep breath steadied her before she opened her banking app. Balance: $23.47. Her stomach clenched. Rent was due tomorrow. Electricity had already been shut off once this month. She had picked up every extra shift she could, but it wasn't enough. Kate shoved the phone back into her pocket and kept walking, her steps heavy against the cracked pavement. The rain started as a drizzle, then thickened into a steady downpour. A few feet ahead, a figure hunched beneath a bus stop bench, his thin frame barely covered by a tattered coat. His beard was long, unkempt, and his hands, covered in dirt, trembled as he clutched an old coffee cup. As Kate passed, his voice cracked through the rain. "Miss, please, just a little something to eat?" She stopped. Pedestrians walked around him like he was invisible, their eyes fixed ahead, pretending not to hear. A couple even stepped farther into the street to avoid him. Kate hesitated. She barely had enough for herself. Every rational thought told her to keep walking. But she knew hunger. She knew what it felt like to lie awake at night, stomach twisting, hoping tomorrow would somehow be better. She sighed and crouched beside him. "Do you like soup?" The man's tired eyes flickered with something. Hope? Surprise? He nodded slowly. Kate pulled out her last few crumpled bills and pressed them into his shaking fingers. "There's a diner a block down. They'll let you sit inside if you order something hot." The man looked at the money, then back at her. His voice was barely above a whisper. You don't have to." "I know," she said. The man stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, his lips curled into the faintest smile. "True kindness is rare," he murmured. "You may not realize it now, but you've changed my life." Kate forced a tired smile, brushing damp hair from her face. "Just pay it forward someday, all right?" She turned to leave, her coat already soaked through. But as she stepped onto the sidewalk, a gust of wind sent the eviction notice, tucked into her bag, fluttering to the ground. Her stomach dropped. She lunged for it, but the rain-soaked paper tumbled through the air, landing at the beggar's feet. He picked it up carefully, his weathered hands smoothing the creased edges. His tired eyes lifted to hers, searching. "You're struggling too," he said quietly. Kate swallowed hard. "I'll figure it out," she said, but the words felt empty. The man hesitated, as if debating something. Then, he held out the money she had given him. "Take this back. You need it more than me." Kate shook her head. "Number, eat something warm tonight." She turned away before he could argue, shoving her hands into her pockets and walking briskly into the storm. Behind her, the beggar sat motionless, watching her disappear into the rain. His smile lingered. By the time Kate reached her apartment, the rain had soaked through her clothes, chilling her to the bone. She fumbled with her keys, her fingers numb, as she unlocked the door to her tiny studio. The moment she stepped inside, the familiar stale air greeted her. Cheap instant noodles, damp laundry, and something metallic from the leaky pipe under the sink. She flicked the light switch. Nothing. Her stomach dropped. With a sigh, she crossed the room and pressed her fingers against the cold electric panel. Second shutoff this month. She had known it was coming, but hoped for more time. She slipped out of her wet coat and grabbed a towel, rubbing the moisture from her arms as she sat at the edge of her bed. The eviction notice lay on the rickety nightstand, half crumpled from where she had shoved it earlier. She picked it up. Final notice. Payment due by tomorrow at noon. Her chest tightened. Where was she going to get that kind of money? She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts, hovering over a name: Supervisor, Saint, Mercy Hospital. She hesitated, then tapped the call button. A gruff voice answered almost immediately. Kate, it's late. I know. I wouldn't call if it wasn't important. Can I pick up an extra shift? A double? Anything? A long silence. Then, we're already overstaffed this week. I can't justify it. Please, she whispered, gripping the towel in her lap. I just need a little more time. A sigh crackled through the line. Kate, you're a good nurse, but this is a hospital, not a charity. The line went dead. Kate slowly lowered the phone, her pulse pounding in her ears. Her gaze drifted to her balance again. She had given away her last few dollars to a stranger. A wave of regret crashed over her. What had she been thinking? Tears burned behind her eyes, but she blinked them away. She wouldn't cry. Not for this. With a deep breath, she lay back on the cold bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. Her stomach ached, not just from hunger, but from something deeper. Outside, the rain hammered against the window. A single thought gnawed at her. Had she just sealed her own fate? The morning light filtered weakly through Kate's window, casting pale streaks across the peeling wallpaper. She barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the eviction notice flashed in her mind. She sat up, rubbing her temples. Today was the deadline. Her stomach groaned, reminding her she hadn't eaten since yesterday. She ignored it and reached for her phone. No new messages, no last-minute miracles. A sharp knock at the door jolted her. She stiffened. The landlord. For a split second, she considered pretending she wasn't home, but she knew it wouldn't change anything. With a deep breath, she stood and opened the door. Mr. Holloway, her landlord, stood on the threshold, his arms crossed over his round belly. His eyes flickered down at her wrinkled scrubs, and then at the dark circles beneath her eyes. Kate, he said, not unkindly, but firm. Rent was due last week. I gave you extra time. I know, she said quickly. I just need a little more. He exhaled, shaking his head. I've got bills too. I can't wait any longer. Desperation clawed at her throat. Please, I can... A black sedan pulled up in front of the building, its polished exterior starkly out of place on the run-down street. Kate and Mr. Holloway both turned as a sharply dressed man stepped out, his suit crisp, his expression unreadable. He approached them with measured steps, then stopped directly in front of Kate. Miss Carter? His voice was smooth, professional. Kate hesitated. Yes? He reached into his coat and pulled out a cream-colored envelope, embossed with gold lettering. You're requested for a private medical consultation, effective immediately. Kate blinked. I don't understand. Who sent you? The details will be explained upon arrival. He extended the envelope. She stared at it, her mind whirling. A job offer? Out of nowhere? Mr. Holloway cleared his throat. If this is a paying job, you'd better take it. Kate swallowed hard, then slowly reached for the envelope. Her fingers trembled as she slid it open. Inside was a single line of text. You showed kindness when you had nothing. Now, let me return the favor. Her breath caught. No name, no explanation. She looked up at the man in the suit. Who am I supposed to help? His expression didn't change. You'll see soon enough. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Who was behind this? And what was waiting for her on the other side of that car door? Kate sat stiffly in the back seat of the sleek black sedan, gripping the envelope in her lap. The leather interior smelled of something expensive, clean, polished, and completely unfamiliar to her world of antiseptic wipes and overused hospital linens. The driver, the same suited man who had delivered the message, remained silent as they wove through the city streets. Kate cleared her throat. Where exactly are we going? He didn't glance back. You'll see soon enough. A vague answer, not reassuring. She clutched the fabric of her scrubs, her mind racing. This had to be a mistake. Or worse, a scam. But then she thought about the message inside the envelope. You showed kindness when you had nothing. A memory flashed. The beggar from last night. His tired eyes, his trembling hands, the way he had looked at her when she handed him her last few dollars. Could it be him? Number. That was ridiculous. The man had nothing. He had been shivering in the rain. Unless... The car slowed, then turned onto a long, tree-lined driveway. Kate's breath hitched as an estate came into view. Not just a house, but a mansion. The kind she had only ever seen in magazines. Towering stone pillars flanked the grand entrance. The windows stretched high, gleaming in the early morning light. The surrounding gardens were pristine, with hedges so perfectly trimmed they looked surreal. Kate's pulse pounded. What kind of place was this? The car rolled to a stop, and the driver stepped out, opening her door. This way, Miss Carter. She hesitated, gripping the door handle. Every instinct told her to be cautious. But the other half of her, the part drowning in debt, hunger, and exhaustion, knew she had no other options. She stepped out. The massive front doors creaked open as an older man in a crisp vest greeted her. Right this way. Kate's heartbeat hammered as she followed him through a long marble hallway. Chandeliers glittered above, their golden light casting soft shadows along the walls lined with oil paintings. At the end of the hall, double doors stood slightly ajar. The butler stepped aside. He's expecting you. Kate swallowed hard. Who is he? The butler simply smiled. You already know. Her breath caught. Was it really him? She pushed open the doors, and there, seated in a grand library, no longer in rags, was the beggar from the street. Except now, he wasn't a beggar at all. He looked up and smiled. Welcome, Kate. Her stomach dropped. Who was he really? Kate froze in the doorway, her breath caught in her throat. The man sitting before her looked nothing like the shivering beggar she had given her last dollars to. His worn coat was gone, replaced by a tailored suit that fit him perfectly. The exhaustion in his eyes remained, but now there was something else. Calm authority. He wasn't just some man off the street. Kate's fingers clenched around the edges of her clothes. I don't understand. The man leaned forward, resting his elbows on the polished mahogany desk. I imagine you wouldn't. His voice was smooth, warm. Please, sit. Her legs locked in place. Who are you? He studied her for a long moment, then exhaled. My name is Charles Whitmore. The name struck something distant in her memory, an article she had skimmed years ago in a waiting room, the kind of billionaire story that didn't seem real. Whitmore Industries, real estate empire, fortune in the billions. She shook her head, disbelief pressing down on her. That's not possible. I saw you. You were on the street. You had nothing. His lips quirked in amusement. Had nothing. No, Kate. She shook her head. Why? Charles stood slowly, walking to the window. Outside, the sprawling estate stretched endlessly, but he didn't seem to admire it. If anything, he looked at it the way someone looked at a cage. Because wealth means nothing when you have no one to share it with, he said quietly. I spent my life building an empire, but in the end, I was alone. He turned back to her, his gaze sharp. I wanted to see if kindness still existed without money in the equation. Kate's chest tightened. He had been testing people, searching for something. Charles smiled, but there was something almost sad in it. And then I met you. Kate swallowed. She had given him barely anything, just a few dollars, a moment of warmth. Why had that mattered so much to him? Charles moved toward his desk, picking up a thick folder. You're probably wondering why you're here. She nodded, her pulse pounding. He placed the folder in front of her. Because I want to offer you something that will change your life. Kate's heart slammed against her ribs. What could a man like him possibly want from someone like her? Kate's fingers hovered over the folder, her pulse thudding in her ears. What was inside? She hesitated. What exactly are you offering me? Charles folded his hands, watching her carefully. A job. She blinked. A job? I have a job? Yes, but not just any job. He gestured toward the folder. Go ahead. Open it. Kate's hands trembled slightly as she flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the first page. A contract. Her name was already printed at the top. The details blurred together as she tried to focus. Full-time private medical consultant. Exclusive salary. $500,000 per year. Housing provided. All expenses covered. Her breath hitched. She had to reread the number twice. $500,000? Her throat went dry. This has to be a mistake. Charles smiled, though his expression remained unreadable. No mistake. Kate shook her head. Why? Why me? Charles leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. Because you were the only one. She swallowed. The only one? What? The only person who stopped. His voice was quiet but firm. The only one who gave, even when you had nothing. I sat on that street corner for 2 weeks. Hundreds of people passed me by. Some looked away, some scoffed, some even laughed, but only one person. He nodded toward her. Only you stopped. A lump formed in Kate's throat. She had struggled her whole life, working herself to exhaustion, always on the edge of losing everything. And now, a billionaire, a man who could have anything, was offering her the one thing she had never been given. A chance. She closed the folder, her fingers pressing against the cover. And what exactly does this job entail? Charles's expression darkened slightly. It's not just medical work. He paused. I have personal matters that require discretion. You'd be more than just a nurse. You'd be someone I can trust. Kate's stomach tightened. Personal matters? Something about his tone sent a prickle of unease down her spine. She met his gaze. And if I say no? Charles exhaled, then smiled faintly. Then you walk out that door, and I'll still cover your rent, your bills, and give you enough to start fresh. Kate's breath caught. Even if she refused, he would still help her. He studied her, his expression unreadable. But if you say yes, it will change everything. Silence stretched between them. Kate's fingers curled over the folder. Her whole life, no one had ever offered her a real choice. Now, she had one. But was she ready for what saying yes would mean? Kate stared at the folder, her heartbeat loud in her ears. A job, a fortune, a way out. It was everything she had ever wanted, everything she had never dared to dream of. But something about it felt off. She met Charles's gaze. What aren't you telling me? His lips pressed into a thin line. You're smart to ask that. He rose from his chair and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. Outside, the sun had fully risen, casting long golden streaks over the manicured lawn. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, I don't have much time left. Kate stiffened. What? Charles turned back to her, his expression unreadable. I'm dying. The words hit her like a punch to the chest. She shook her head. No. You look fine. A sad smile tugged at the corners of his lips. I have good doctors, the best money can buy, but even they can't fix this. Kate's medical training kicked in. What is it? Pancreatic cancer. His voice was calm, almost detached. 6 months, maybe less. Kate felt the air leave her lungs. 6 months. Her eyes darted to the contract, the generous salary, the fully covered expenses. It wasn't just a job offer, it was a last request. She looked back at him. You don't need a nurse. You need, she hesitated. A friend, he finished quietly. Silence stretched between them. Kate's mind raced. This man, this billionaire, had chosen to spend his final days giving everything away, testing people, searching for something real. And now he was asking her to stand beside him in his last moments. She swallowed hard. And when the 6 months are up? Charles studied her. Then my estate will be settled, and my fortune, what's left of it, will go to someone who deserves it. Kate's hands clenched over the folder. And you think that's me? His expression softened. I think it could be. A war raged inside her. Was she ready for this? Ready to stand beside a dying man, to watch as he faded, to carry the weight of his final days? She had spent her life running from loss. Could she face it now? Charles extended a hand. What do you say, Kate? She stared at his outstretched hand. Could she say yes? Kate inhaled shakily, her eyes locked on Charles's outstretched hand. Every instinct told her to run, to protect herself from the heartbreak that was sure to come. She had spent her life caring for people who barely noticed her, stretching herself thin just to survive. But Charles was different, because he saw her, not just as a nurse, not just as someone desperate for money, but as a person. She took a deep breath and clasped his hand. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. For the first time, Charles's composure cracked. Relief washed over his features, his fingers squeezing hers briefly. Thank you, he said softly, while his eyes moistened. The days turned into weeks. Kate became more than just Charles' nurse. She became his friend. They talked for hours in the grand library, sipping tea by the fire. He told her stories of his past, his regrets, his triumphs, the empires he built, and the people he had lost. She made him laugh. He made her believe in kindness again. And as his strength faded, Kate was there, holding his hand through the worst of it. She stayed up on the nights when the pain was unbearable, reading to him when sleep wouldn't come, and when his body grew weak enough that he could no longer walk the estate grounds, she pushed him in a wheelchair, letting him feel the morning sun on his face. Promise me something, Charles murmured one evening as they watched the sunset. Kate glanced at him. Anything. When I'm gone, don't disappear. Don't let the world swallow you. His tired eyes searched hers. Promise me you'll live. Tears burned her vision. She nodded. I promise. One morning, as golden light spilled into his bedroom, Charles's breathing slowed. His fingers, once strong, trembled as they reached for her hand. Kate curled her fingers around his, her voice breaking. I'm here. A faint smile. Good. His eyes fluttered closed, and with one last peaceful breath, he was gone. Tears rolled down her face as Kate felt an emptiness, like part of her had gone. The funeral was small, intimate. Few people truly knew Charles Whitmore in the end, but Kate had, and when his estate was finally settled, she sat in stunned silence as the lawyer slid a single envelope toward her. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter. Kate, I had everything, yet nothing, until I met you. You gave me kindness when I had nothing to offer in return. Now it's my turn. Live, be free, never struggle again. With gratitude, Charles. Beneath the letter was a legal document. Charles hadn't just left her a fortune, he had left her everything. Kate covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. She had never expected anything in return for her kindness, but Charles had given her the greatest gift of all, a second chance at life. As she stepped outside, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, she smiled softly. She wouldn't waste it. she would live. If you enjoyed this story, you might be interested in this next video. For more heartwarming, uplifting, triumph, revenge, and emotional rewarding stories, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.